Hello and welcome to Freedom from Trauma, an online education series where we're interviewing experts, teachers, authors to bring you profound practices and powerful conversations to heal trauma and consciously create the body, mind, and spirit that you truly desire. Today, our guest is Edna White. Welcome, Edna.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks.
Thank you so much for being here, Edna. I came across your work and found your story and your work in the world so compelling and so powerful. So I want to thank you for having the courage and the journey that you've had and then making it available to others to heal
Yes.
and transform and be given the courage as well. You talk a lot about faith in your work, and you talk a lot about how having faith can help us heal and help us get unstuck.
Right.
Now, can you share with us and this audience that's here, because people watching this are going through some challenges, or perhaps are just looking for that extra support and help, motivation, inspiration, to find a way past their struggles and suffering and to have freedom. And being someone who has walked a path, would you share with us how you discovered faith yourself, and how this became the teaching that you chose above all to share?
Okay. Well, I will tell you that my faith had to do a lot with first myself. Scary because, going through this journey of, when I found myself very, very stuck, I mean, immensely stuck, I wanted to take my life. I actually was coming home from my friend's house, and I had, my son was about 7 months old. And I was feeling severely depressed. And for many years, I lived with my perpetrator. So it wasn't like, he wasn't there, I was dealing with ghosts or whatever. The actual perpetrator was living with me. So it was very difficult to come out of the rut. And faith in myself, firstly, was the most important thing. So the day that I was actually going to commit suicide, I walked from my friend's house, and I had my son with me, and I was carrying him on my shoulder, my hip, and we were walking, and I was just like sobbing, just like, it was like, I couldn't stop sobbing, I was sobbing. He was wiping my face. He was only 7 months. He's wiping my face, and I just couldn't stop sobbing. And I walked down to the train station, because down where my house is, there's a train track. So I said, I don't, I'm 17, so I don't really know about like how to kids. I really honestly didn't. I'm a girl from the South, and that wasn't really something that we talked about, or, we've never heard it, we've heard a tragedy, but never someone kind of hurting themselves. So I said, well, let me go sit on the train tracks. I'm going to take my life. This is the day. I can't deal with it. And as I look back, I was going to not only take my life, I was going to actually take my child's life. And because I felt like I couldn't, take care of him. And with all the negative noise from the outside, it was beginning to seep on the inside. And I remember walking down to the train station, and I was like, God, this is really, I don't know what else to do. I don't have any success with anything else, and I don't know what else to do. So I sat on the train tracks, and I sat there, and I was still crying and sobbing. And 30 minutes went by, an hour went by, and I'm still crying. I'm still sitting there with my son, still crying, sitting there with my son. And I'm still sitting there, and I'm like, where's the train? I'm like,
yeah.
And 2-3 hours came, and I'm like, and finally I get up, and I was like, dang, God, I can't even kill myself, right? It just so happened the train never came because they were working on the road. I didn't know that, but I believe God knew that. And I've always had a love for God. When I was 5 years old, in my family, I lived with my great-grandparents. So my mom was here in New York. I'm from Alabama, so my mom was here in New York setting up and trying to find a job and everything. So I wasn't with her. I was living with my grandparents, and they never spoke of God being like this thing, the Westerners think he's this thing. It was always the power from within. They always talked like that. Like, God gives you power. You can do this, it comes from within. So I always had a love for God. My mom used to say she had like pages and pages of me writing to God to save me, to take care of me. And I was only 5. I was writing at 5. So I knew that my gift was writing way back. And so when I left from trying to, commit suicide by train track, it didn't work. I went home, and of course, I'm still sobbing, I'm still sad, and I'm with my son, and I'm still trying to figure out what to do. And so the next day comes, and I'm still upset. I'm still crying, and I have to take him to this affair that he wanted to see Spider-Man. He wanted to see Spider-Man, so I had to take him, right? So I get on the bus, and I'm still sobbing. There's people all around. I'm still got the tears rolling. I'm still taking my son where he needs to go, and he's still sitting there wiping my tears. Okay. This one lady was coming towards me to sit on the bus, and she just looked at me, and I kind of looked down. And then I was sitting there for a little while, then her stop came. And so she walked past me again, and she touched my shoulder, and she said, "It'll be okay." And in her hand was this card, and the card dropped in my lap, and I just, picked it up, and I, because I thought it was a track, I thought it was a Christian track or something. So I just put it in my bag. And so later on that day, I went back home, and something said, "Look at the card." And so I looked at the card. It just happened to be a psychiatrist who specialized in sexual trauma and who was 2-3 blocks from where I lived. So I could literally walk to her house. It was amazing. So I'm getting chills now. I was like, how did she know? How did she know any of this? So I started going to her, and that was really my first time having faith in myself to do something. Taking that card, actually going, that was faith in myself. And I started to build up on that faith, my abilities, but I was still missing some parts of me that were damaged back then. You don't know that. You don't really feel that. You just know that there's something missing. And it has nothing to do with this magicalness, or it's just pieces that are broken. It's like a mirror. So you know that there's supposed to be a full picture, but pieces are missing, and you can't find the pieces to kind of put in and make it look like you. So that's how I felt, like there was always pieces missing. And that was my first real connection with myself, like really connecting with myself, because I had the power to make a decision that was good for me.
Right.
I had that power before. So
because you went through, before the faith, you went through the trauma and the abuse.
Right.
Yeah.
From 5 to 15, and from 3 to 4 different people. So it was very, as a child, you don't know what to act, how to act, or what to say. And then I told my mom at 12, and my mom, I was kind of punished for it. So it was like, I went to a special school, but he still got to stay. He still got to stay with her. And I felt like my word was never going to be enough for anyone. And I had stopped speaking. I had stopped talking along the way. I spoke very little. I always answered questions yes or no, and I really didn't share any of my feelings. So I had stopped feeling a long time prior to that. I was able to, once I had that ability to make that choice and make that call and then share with someone that I felt really safe with, I heard my voice for the very first time. I'd never had the opportunity to hear myself, to have a question asked to me and for me to answer. And it's for someone to really care about what I said. So that was really empowering to me.
The distinction I think that you just pointed out, with that we may have, like, words may come out of our mouth, we may be
Right.
making sounds, but
Right.
it's not our voice.
Not a real voice. No.
Voice, you know,
Yes. It
because
wasn't the wholesomeness of me. It wasn't what my feelings were. See, you know how we say certain things like yes or no. Those are really like robotic sayings, you know.
right.
It really doesn't have any, depth to it. But when I was able to say yes and then would put a comma and then add to it, and really someone was listening and wanted to hear what I had to say, that empowered me like so much. It was like, wow, she really wants to hear it. She really wants to hear what I have to say. And it's okay for me to say it. And that started me to really started writing a whole lot. Like I had written, I think before I was 20, I had written 2 books, and I didn't even know I've written them. Like they were there. I just put them away, and those were the stories of my life. I really didn't know that they were things I could share with someone else. And going through life, I reconnected this to God, like to really God, like I had a real relationship. Like I've learned, through my travels and connecting with other religions, that it's here. And that's what my great grandparents were trying to tell me. It's here. It wasn't out there, this mystery and the fear of that entity, killing you or something. It wasn't even that. It was the feeling that I had, the relationship, and it all came together. And it was like, wow, I could really hear my heartbeat. You start to, once that starts lining up, you start feeling, wow, I can hear my heartbeat. I can hear myself breathe,
Mm-hmm.
words that are not negative. Like I hear positive words, and you start to feel that faith, first with myself, and then the faith in the relationship with God, the real relationship, not with religion, but the real one with God, literally solidified. Like, wow, I get it, and I looked at people differently. Because coming from sexual trauma, you trust no one. That's not even not even something you question. It's like nobody's trusted. Nobody at all. And I think my only children, the people that ever trusted were my children. Like my children, they knew everything about me. Like they, we could sit and talk about things, and they were my children. So I was able to feel with them, and they were a real gift for me. I didn't like trouble them, I would say. How like when you are traumatized, sometimes you spill over on other people. I made a decision not to do that. And that was so amazing. I look back over my life and I was like, wow, I didn't spill out over my children, and they're like well-rounded individuals, making their own choices and being able to, if they ever did something wrong, they were able to make, I did this wrong, and make it, and say, it was very well-rounded. And I look at them now and I said, wow, I'm just so proud of myself for not spilling over on them. It took me a long while after that to get to, into relationship with other people, but that's all a process as well. Once you become in relationship with yourself and God, then that's a whole work in itself. Then the faith in other people, then, that's the third step, is the faith in other people, because it takes, those are the steps. And believe it or not, I didn't get to that step until I was 45.
Mm.
I was 45. And it's a process. It really is a taking off. And I write about it in my book. I say my life was like an onion. Like, so the first skin I took off, and I kept taking off till I got to the sweetest part of me, which was the internal part of the onion. And that's the sweetest part. Got down to that. It was like, and now I was good for everyone else, because I was at that sweet part, and I can add flavor, and I can had life. I had smell, you know, I was able to be I was able to be received in all five senses. Yeah. As I was before, I was not no good to anyone, not even myself.
Right.
Was able to be, you know, be able to address or be part of someone's life and affect five senses. That was most important to me.
Beautiful. I mean, you started out with so much trauma and difficulty, and having a baby at that age, going through so much intense emotional and mental.
Oh yeah, it was tough.
Upset and dysregulation. You know, you were saying about the voice and being heard and your senses coming alive. And I think those that are watching can totally relate, as can I, that that trauma is totally, it's a numbing.
It is.
Totally numbing. And you're not saying what you want to say, really. You can't even connect with your truth.
No, you can't.
I love the analogy of the sweetest part of the onion.
Yeah.
That's really, I like that. That's really sweet. Yeah. So you went through so many parts of this journey, and then you came to a place where you started to actually speak to audiences and speak from the RAIN platform. Can you say a little bit about RAIN and speak?
Well, when I first was part of RAIN, I introduced my book Stuff, and we did we was in a place called Far Rockaway out west in New York City, and it was actually my first time saying everything, because as a trauma survivor, you know that you don't want to hurt everyone around you. So my mother was still living, and this perpetrator was one of my two sisters' father. So didn't want to hurt them. You know, I had so much guilt about, like, if I say this, if I say that. But when I began to work with RAIN, I initially started working with them just as far as talking on their, talking to someone on their platform. So I talking to someone on their platform. And then as I got stronger, I started sharing my story with different people on their platform. They asked me to come and just like be on their 800 number. And I just started inspiring people that way, sharing my story that way. And it kind of gave me strength to say my story. So when I was about 45, everything just came out, and I was like, I can't hold and be responsible for everybody's reaction to what to me. Either you believe me or you don't. That's the way it is. And I believe me. Was the most important part. I believed me. And it wasn't a dream. It wasn't me being a bad kid. It wasn't something that I made up, or, or because I was always told, oh, well, you could have misinterpreted things because you were younger, and nah, don't misinterpret anything, At that age, you're smarter than even some people realize you are, I laugh because they say stay in a child's place, and I'm like, well, where is it? Those things were so derogatory. It fed it, it affected us, like, or be respectful to your elders. Well, an elder is the one that abused me. So how does that even fit in the category? So as I got older, I began to dispel a whole lot of myths. A lot of my speaking was getting to the core of, that's why a lot of people are stuck, is those things that people say to them and it gets stuck. I better not say anything because I could be confused and not trusting yourself, or I was a child and, I have to get over it. I was a child. I love this one. These things happen. Yeah, they happen, but they're supposed to be corrected, like most things, and that's when I knew, like, I got stuck again when I was in about 45. I got stuck again because it happens, and then you get unstuck, and then you get stuck again because there's a whole lot of emotions that go on. There's a whole lot that goes on. Spiritually, you're different in 10 years where you were 10 years ago. You're different 10 years from now. You're different. So it's not something that just happens one time. You get stuck a couple of times. And you realize like, hey, I got over this. Now you have to get to a place to say, okay, now why am I stuck? You know, as you get older, you know, you start, why am I stuck now? What is it that I need to do? And we get into, I know us women do, talking to our girlfriends, asking us what to do, you know, talking to our parents what we should do, going to an overseer or a pastor and asking them, and they really don't know. When I first encountered that I can answer myself back and have the answer, I was like totally shocked. I'm like, wait, there's nobody in the room, and I'm looking around. Where did that voice come from? It was from within me. That's where the answer came from. And I'm like, wow. So all I learned at 45, all I had to do was ask myself, what is it I need to learn? What is it? Why am I scared? Or why? All I need to do is ask myself that, and I would have the answer. If I were to calm myself down, breathe, and connect, you would have the answer. And I think that was amazing. At 45, you know, at 45, you think you got it all down pat.
Yeah, got it all figured.
You don't got it. You don't have it down. You know.
The thing that you are pointing to, and I keep hearing this from you, is the idea of trust.
Yeah.
It's trusting that you have the answer. You have the connection, direct connection to God. You don't need middle whatever system.
Don't need it.
It's, you keep doing this too, right? And it's direct experience. It's the holy instant, like, you know, it's already, you already have direct contact.
You already have it.
But it's all that stuff that happens in between that it's like roadblocks is what I'm hearing you say.
Right.
And once you can free that up, you can flow, and you're alive. You're alive to yourself first before you can do anything for anyone else. It's about becoming fully alive.
Right. And that's what took me so long, is because you can't give someone you don't have, someone what you don't have.
Right.
As you may get an education in a certain field and try to give to someone, try as you may, it doesn't work very well. And I've done some amazing things in my life. I was telling my friend the other day, I did a lot of firsts in my family. I did a lot of firsts in my own life. I'm for Vogue for so many years. I traveled around the world. I lived in China, you know, teaching English. You know, I did some amazing things. I mean, I was on a radio station for I worked for them for like a year, you know, and I did some amazing things. And we don't see that good stuff, you know, like we're so bogged down with all of this the roles of being a wife, the roles of being a mom, and we adapt to that before we become a woman. So we forget that we're a woman first, and then we adapt, oh, I'm his wife, or I'm the wife role. And we take on these roles and we cling to them. And then after that's over, or after that has come to its course, like our children move out, we're stuck again. Why? Because we have not embraced who we really are, like our originality.
Do you think that's because the connection of childhood sexual abuse with that? Because, you know, I think because I've had an experience similar to yours in some ways, and I'm kind of relating a lot with you as far as that journey goes. And I'm wondering that I've been called a chameleon many times, where
absolutely.
I fit in.
That's number one.
I feel like it's a learned behavior to survive. Can you speak to that, like your own?
I used to have I still do. I have the ability, when I was younger, I could look at someone, I could see their entire life. I had that ability, and I'm like, it used to scare me a lot. And I was real little, and I used to remember like, oh, this, and I would go to my mom, his wife is getting beat by him, and she's like, be quiet, but I didn't know that, I don't know their lives. I just saw them, but I saw their whole life. I know that inside of all of that there's a connectedness that we miss as trauma survivors. We become chameleons to make everyone happy. Mm-hmm. We want to keep the peace because it is instilled in us that we were the troublemakers. Mm-hmm. What happened to us is trouble. So as a child, you don't want to cause any trouble. So what do? You become that chameleon that makes everybody happy. That, I can remember if I saw you like 10 years ago, oh, what happened to your dog? I would remember things to connect to you. Oh. Right? I would remember. And and I said, what is that? It was survival, because I wanted you to like me, because I wasn't never liked in my own life. So I wanted you to like me. That was the chameleon effect for me. That was what I always did. Always.
Oh my God. We're like sitting on the opposite ends. Like you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast.
Yes.
From India. And it's just that I'm just looking at the universality of, did I say that right? Universality of this condition of trauma.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
It's beyond borders. It's beyond race. It's beyond even gender. It's at the core. It impacts us at the core.
Exactly. It changes us.
It changes us.
It really changes us. Like I said, it's like the mirror. You see yourself, one beautiful mirror, and then it's like someone came along and punched it. Yeah. And then the pieces are all fragmented. You then have to learn to see yourself the way you saw yourself before. Yeah. And that's a whole other whole lot of work.
Life story.
It's visual. It's it affects you visually. I talk about that in my book. It affected me with even my eating habits. Like habits. I never was a foodie. I never was a foodie at all. And I never liked food. I was always I guess I want to say scared of it, because food was used to entice me. Yeah. So I was always in the midst of like, do I really like this, or am I being enticed to like this?
So, this is something that not a lot of people talk about. And because Edna, I'm getting goosebumps because you're speaking like you're talking about my life. Like I'm relating to you so much. No one talks about food trauma.
No.
I mean, they talk about food addiction and food disorders, eating disorders, but I think it's food trauma.
It's food trauma.
When you were saying that, I literally just got goosebumps because I've been thinking about this for a few months myself. So sorry, I didn't interrupt you. Go ahead.
I think I was at my friend's house, and we were studying, because we were studying like the Greek Bible for a while. And I was always over our house. So we were just studying, and I for some reason, I love cheese, and I never figured it out, and then I was sitting there and I was like, why do I like cheese? Like, why do I really like it? And before I knew it, I started sobbing, because cheese was given to me to be quiet. Cookies were given to me to be quiet. I didn't grow up on like sweets or anything like that, but those are things to be quiet. I wasn't also a gifter. Like I would never give anybody anything, because that gifts were given to me to be quiet. So it was everything, every part of my life was truly
tainted and filtered.
Yes, it was just truly everything. I had to really take like maybe 4 years out of my life and just focus on me, because I had so many things that I had adapted and that really traumatized me, that especially food. To this day now, I've eaten so much of it, it now affects me. So I can't eat it. Now I'm in, in a whole different, 10 years ago, I could have eaten it and didn't realize it was hurting me. And then now, if I eat it now, I'm literally incapacitated. But food trauma is so, oh my gosh, it just, right now, it's just, even when I look at how I eat things, like I would actually have like a candy bar, literally, and I would have it for a week. I would bite small pieces off of it. And I said, why would I do that? It's because I would save the pieces because I felt guilty. I was given the candy bar to be quiet, but I liked candy. So I would take small pieces because I felt guilty, and then it would push it away. And then that's what it just kind of like migrated into my life with everything, with the way I eat, everything. And I was like, oh my goodness, this really is affecting me. So I had to really go back and like be like the X Factor and like push through a whole candy bar just to get over, eat a whole candy bar just to get through it. It's like, now I'm not ashamed anymore. I had to consciously, I'm not ashamed anymore. I bought this candy bar for myself. Candy is not something it's something I like, but it shouldn't have been used against me. And I have to talk through it as I'm eating it.
And that's something you've done with your life, is taking your setbacks and turn them into things that you can use in service of others and push forward. That's something. I think you also talk a lot about taking action.
Yeah.
Being in action and doing. Can you speak to that and the things that you're doing now in service of this work?
Actionable steps really. I was always, and I think you're solution oriented. So whenever there's a challenge, you have to take action, and then you have to find a solution. A lot of times we're taught, I know here, we're taught that if we're not responsible. We don't want to be responsible, or, we give things to God, so we don't have to be responsible. Right. But it's not his, he has more faith in us than we have in ourselves. Mm-hmm. He has the ability, to do it. And we have to take responsibility and put it in action. Even if it's the smallest step. I was speaking to someone the other day. They I think they Instagrammed me and they said, well, I've been like this for years. How do I take the first step? I said, you just did. Just did. You took the first step, the tiniest step. That's action. Okay. And I said, now take the next step. Start liking yourself. What do you like about yourself? And we're on Instagram now, and they're writing out, well, I like this about myself. You say, I don't like it. I love that I can do this. Even if you're just eating a candy bar, I can eat a candy bar faster than anybody else. Just say, I love how I can do that. You have to start loving yourself, the actionable steps of like loving yourself. Changing our language is so very important. Like, when I started this journey, I used to take those stickies, and I used to put up literally all over my room. My bedroom is like, so my lamp would be, I'm beautiful. Today's going to be a great day, because I was never told I was beautiful. So today's going to be a great day. I'm beautiful. And that would be on my lamp. When I got up, I would stand up and look towards my closet, which had like all the other affirmations. And as I walk into the bathroom, go to the mirror and say, look at you today. Aren't you gorgeous? You're going to have an amazing day. And these things will be all on my wall, all in my room. I used to do this to my kids as well. And those things right there are such actionable steps. You may not be able to say it because, through this journey, we build up self-hatred. We just build it up. Hate the way our hair looks. Hate the way our eyes are slanted. Hate the way our eyebrows are. Hate the way our nose is. Hate the way this, I got a mark here. Hate the way that looks. We have that shame. It's not hate, it's shame, because someone else made us feel this way, to be ashamed of who we really are. So we have to unbuild that, so that there's a big wall there. We have to take brick by brick, take it down, and actually come to that part and say, you know what? I like myself, even if I have a mole here and it's sticking out. It's great. It's beautiful. I used to rub myself and I was like, oh, you are so nice looking. I never was told that. Never, ever. And even though modeling, people told me that, and I would look at other girls and it's like, wow, she's really pretty. And then one girl told me, it's like, you're really pretty. What are you talking about? She's pretty. You're pretty. I'm sitting in Vogue now. I'm with every amazing model that could be. We're doing a floor show. And I'm sitting there saying, wow, she's really pretty. And not saying anything about myself. I'm surrounded by beautiful people. And I'm one of the beautiful people. Never noticed it. You know, and I did that from 21 to 25. I did, and never noticed it until this one girl said, what are you talking about? You're beautiful. You wouldn't be in the room if you weren't. Like, and it never dawned on me. Never
included yourself.
Never included myself. And that is part of the trauma too.
Yes.
Not being included. I was always excluded because I was the trouble, you know, when I started sharing with my teacher what was going on with me, and she called the police, and she, you know, went to my house. You know, I was lied on, and I had promised myself that day. I was like, wow, I can't believe my mom is lying on me. Like I said, I will never lie. I made up my mind. I'm never gonna, and I try my hardest even to this day. I'm not gonna lie. It may hurt me, you know, and I have to learn how to say things a little bit more pleasant, truthfully. But I said to myself, I'm never gonna lie because that's not true. You know, I don't want to lie. And sexual trauma invades your psyche. Even if you have an ego, the ego doesn't know how to act. It flutters. It's like, even if you want to feel bigger about yourself, the ego is so trampled. I'm amazed how, like, even for me, because like I just explained to you, how I'm in a room with people from Vogue, and my ego can't even get like, oh, you know, like, you know,
you can't fake it. You can't fake it.
It's not even, it's just, and my ego did not have an effect on me at all. It took me a very long time. You know, I know the ego part of you can have some undesirable things, but my ego was so trampled. It really didn't function the way that, you know, the good and the bad side of us. I didn't have a side. It was like, whatever. And, you know, as a sexual trauma victim, you're always, well, here comes, you know, when that person, the perpetrator's coming, you lay down, you be quiet, you go somewhere else.
Yeah, dissociate.
You're not yourself. And it takes you hours to become yourself again, or even a semblance of who you're supposed to be. Now think about that as a child.
Yeah.
Trying to become yourself. And you don't know.
When you don't even know to begin with.
Yes.
You are.
Right.
So you're bringing up something that's really key for people that have experienced trauma, abuse, neglect, violence, and that's dissociating from your body. It's like you just go up and out. You just check out.
Up and out.
You know,
that's right. Up and out. You really go. It literally feels just like that. Up here, and it's like out.
Yeah.
Your eyes are like blank. It's a blank stare, and you're gone. And then when it's over, you know it's over, but you can't move.
Yeah.
And that you come, and if you bring that forward in our adulthood, that's how we don't take action.
Yeah, we
take action.
Inaction.
No, you're right. We're not in action. So we have to get to a place that we have to say it's done and over with. Now I have to take action because I want the life I deserve. I deserve a better life. And my perpetrator, I think when he died, I wasn't really involved with him. He was there, but I didn't have anything to do with him. So when he died, he was begging my mom to have me come to the hospital, and he wanted to ask me for his forgiveness. So I was like, I'm not going, I'm not going. I don't have to forgive him. And I didn't. And, but I was angry. I was maybe 46 or 47 when he died. And I was very angry. Everything was anger behind it. Everything. I wouldn't speak, anger. It was just, I felt the anger. It was always in me. And so I went to the hospital, and he couldn't hardly breathe, and he couldn't hardly speak. And he was, had a stroke, and he was kind of bent up and everything. So he was saying something. He kept saying, I want you, and I couldn't hear him. So I had to get closer to what he was saying. And everything in me was like, I was skeeving, and I felt like I was going to vomit, and everything was just like coming up. And my mother was like, don't bring that up, and he's like, no, I have to bring it up. So he wanted sovereignty from me so he can go to heaven. And he kept saying, can you forgive me? Can you forgive me? And I looked at him, and something said in my head, and it came out my mouth, and the words were, no, I can't forgive you for how I am now, because everything you've done to me is who I am right now. I don't even know how to ungrip that. And I don't want to give you, your sovereignty to go to heaven, because that's what you want from me. But I will tell you this, I want to forgive you for me, not for you. Because I want to have peace even when you're out of here. And when I said that, I felt like the anger just kind of like, it was like on my back, and it was like just kind of lifting. And it felt like I almost had wings. Like it was like, how, it was like down, and then all of a sudden just like a poof, like this, like, what is that? And I felt like free. Like I really did feel like now I could fly. Now I can do everything, because I didn't have to forgive him for him. I had to forgive him for me. And that was a learning experience. I heard people say, yeah, you got to forgive, but you really don't have to forgive. You don't, but you should forgive for you to be, that was my key. That was the key to unlocking me to him. Mm-hmm. And when I did that, he just died. He died. And my mother, everybody of course was like crying. And I stepped back, and I remember seeing my uncle stand next to him. He said, you did good, and that was the first day I was ever free of that. And then I had, the other perpetrators literally came to me. In my head, I had forgotten about two of them. Like I could see their faces because I was young. I could see their faces, but they literally came to me and said, nothing in my life worked, and I know I did this to you. And I was like, what? And I remember getting the call from one of them, and I was like, what? And he says, no, you may not remember, but I remember. He said, you're a kid. And he said, I'm 62 now. And he's sobbing on the phone. I really need you to forgive me. And I said again, I don't remember, but I have to forgive you to be unchained from you, because when I do remember, I'm going to be still chained to you. And so it was a great experience. He never called again. It released me, and I began to be, really free. So I started, have my relationship with my mother changed, because I hated everything about her. I literally hated her. I mean, she would touch me and I would cringe. And I was like, you're supposed to be helping me. I would never be a mother like you. And I had to understand she had only the ability to do what she could do from her stage of being hurt herself. She only had what she could give, but I understood it, but I still felt like there should have been something else done. So those things even changed. That once you start really, getting out of that phase of up and out, the action starts. Yeah. Then you're taking step by step, small steps. You don't have to take gigantic ones. You don't have to go and kind of conquer relationships. No, you don't have to do that. you just have to have a relationship with yourself and say, you know, and I said, you know, I used to say, damn it, you know, that's my truth. Why am I being upset and trying to guard everybody? Because my sisters, you know, called me the B word because I was making all this stuff up, you know, and I, you know, so it was just like, you know, I had no sisters. For the longest time, I had no sisters. It was just me and my kids. And they never believed me. And then one day, in my own right, I just kept telling the story. I kept telling the story, sharing with other people, wasn't afraid. Social media wise, told my story, didn't care. It wasn't that I didn't care, it was my truth. Either you accept it or you can reject it, or you don't have to look, or you don't have to know, whatever it is, but it's my truth. I'm not saying something that wasn't true. And I got to the place that when I was, you know, sharing my story, and then my book became part of Rain's preferred reading, and you know that once that happened, the book just took off, and I started working with the Association for Protection of Children. Started working with them, and then they picked up my book as well, and used it as part of preferred reading. And then it got into the libraries. One of the teachers, I was teaching ESL, and I was telling her I was writing, and she said, let me see one of your books. So I gave her one of my books, and then she goes, no, I don't want that one. I want that one. So I was like, okay. And she started reading, and she goes, this has to go into the library. When she came back, she was like, oh my gosh. She goes, oh my gosh, this has to go into the library. So she got the book into the library, and it became, you know, part of their catalog. And it was just so good. You know, I'm not a $1 million seller of books or anything, but where it counted, that's where the books are, you know, where I can affect someone that was good for me, you know, that really touched me, because I hear people, guess what I got? You know, I see people on social media, I just went and got this book from the library, you know, and it felt great, you know, that I could help someone, you know. But really the action part of it is just, you know, sharing, and people want to connect like you're doing now. They want to connect, and being in your, I guess we talked about ego, being in your ego, like it's all over, it's over, done with, that's not helping anybody. It'll never help anybody. They see right through it. The only person who doesn't see it is you.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to be that way. And I was always truthful with my audience, was always truthful. They asked me a question, I said, oh yeah. And I would answer it, you know, and it was being clear, you know, and transparent to other people, because transparency is very important, you know. Even as being a counselor or a coach, you have to be transparent. You have to, you know, yeah, that happened to me too. And sometimes you're going to be triggered. Of course, you're going to be triggered, but at least they know that you're genuine, you know, and that's
all the way. Yeah. And you mentioned coach. So that was going to be my next question.
Oh.
You're a coach, right?
Yes.
And so
yes.
Can you tell the audience about your coaching practice and how they can find you? And
okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I am a life purpose coach specializing in sexual trauma. So a lot of my clients have had sexual trauma in their lives, and they're in a stuck mode, and they're wondering, you know, how do I get on with this? How do I get on, you know, with my love life, with my business life, especially, you know. And I know that all of this has to do with a whole lot of business. I'm telling you, it's amazing how it affects it. And through my coaching, I'm actually creating an app right now that I'm so excited about. I'm working with the technicians to actually put together coaches and the clients together. Interface, like this is now, we're talking, they can actually talk to their coach like face to face on an app on the phone. So that's one of the things I'm working on, and I'm hopefully to have it done. It was supposed to be done, but the pandemic happened. But
did it?
Works in the time.
Everything changed.
Yes, everything changed. So that's one thing that I do. But you can actually find me on Life Purpose Coaching. That's my website, lifepurposecoaching.net. And you can actually find me on Facebook, Life Purpose Coaching. You can find me on Instagram, EJW Coaching, and where else? And I'm also on LinkedIn, of course, But a lot of my clients come from social media, from Facebook. They actually come to me from there, and I coach online, coach by Skype but that's a thing of the past. Now that Zoom is taking over. Mm-hmm. And I also
Skype went to sleep for a while.
Yeah, so yes, Skype is sleep.
Zoom just went past Skype.
Yeah, Zoom just went past. That's exactly right. So I'm doing a lot of that in my practice now. So I have not stopped. It's been very good. I've been doing, actually, I have a full-time job working with the homeless, and the portion of coaching is part of my job. So I'm really excited how I just kind of blended everything together, and I don't miss a beat.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So it's powerful stuff. I mean, even homelessness, that's a whole other talk. That in itself is a trauma.
Yes, that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah, poverty is a trauma. I mean,
oh yes.
Yeah, we didn't really get into racial trauma. That's a whole other.
Oh, that's another. I'm talking about that one now. Racial.
Yeah. So there's
a big subject.
Complex trauma and layers and levels and different ages and stages and shapes and forms. Right. And whoever is struggling with their trauma, I really hope that the audience watching is being inspired, as I know I am, to see that having faith, forgiveness, and freedom. I heard that in your talk, that it begins with faith, and then you may or may not at some point experience that feeling of forgiveness and readiness. And that's truly the place where you begin to shift and find freedom, because you said when you forgave, that was the first time you felt free. So it's like, faith, freedom, faith, forgiveness, freedom. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about freedom from trauma. And that path seems like I'm gonna be thinking about that for a while. That sounds really incredible. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to do it.
Yeah, it was so great to have this really deep and meaningful conversation and reflection, which was another thing you did a lot of, which is the self-inquiry, like self-reflection.
Yes.
Building the trust with yourself.
That's right. Yeah, so not leaving it to someone else to figure out.
Yeah, your own success is not a community project.
Nope. That's perfect. I love it. Yes. I love that. I love that. That's really great. I'm still that one.
Go right ahead. My relationship with God is also, it's not a community project.
Not a community project. That's really great. I like that.
Yeah. So I want to remind the audience really quick that all of Edna's information is available on the speaker page on the website, as well as in the email that was sent to you. Also, be sure to write to Edna. Write her a message, a comment, some feedback. You have a question for her, you want to work with her, leave her a message in the comments below, as well as get on her email, get on her social media. You definitely want to know what she's doing and where she's heading. You've done a lifetime of work that it would take an army to do, like 20 people to do everything you've touched on. I mean, and you've only touched on like 15%. Yeah. I know this.
It's really it. I was like, there's so much more, but
there's so much more.
It's so much more. We're so depth. That,
yes.
I mean, it'll all come out at the end. It'll all work out.
Will. And it's in divine timing. All in divine timing.
Exactly.
Just like our timing to connect and meet at this point on our planet. As we wrap up, what is a message that wants to be expressed through you right now for everybody watching?
I would say, don't be afraid to get help. Be afraid. Don't shy away from it. Accept it. If it comes to you, take it, because that could be one of the keys to opening your whole kingdom.
Beautiful. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. I really am so excited about this. You don't even know. I'm trying to contain myself, like excited.
That's great. I love that. Thank you again.
Thank
And
you
I
so
know we'll
much.
be speaking soon.
Yes.
And thank you all for watching. And don't forget to leave Edna a comment, a feedback question. And I'm sure she would love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Respond to you and build a relationship directly. So
yes.
Thank you again. Thank you for watching. And thank you again, Edna. We'll speak soon.
Thank you. Thank you.